evening, everyone. Goeienaand almal. Almal is baie welkom. Molweni nonke. I'm Karen Bruns. I'm the Senior Director of Development and Alumni Relations at the university, which means that the fundraising and the friend-raising sits with me and my team. And you'll meet some of my team this evening. If you didn't meet them at the welcoming at the beginning of the year or at the previous parents online session that we hosted on HEMIS. So as parents, we're thrilled to have you with us. We're very grateful for your ongoing support of both your child or children and our students more broadly. And your involvement is really important, and we're very grateful for that. We have a wintry, the start of winter evening this evening, and it's dark, and I can see out onto Victoria Street that the cars are going up and down, and cyclists and runners and people walking. So it's a hub of activity. But we're going to settle back, and I'm going to introduce to you in a second Elmarie Kruger, who is a counselling psychologist who currently works at the Centre for Student Counselling and Development at Stellenbosch University. She's been at Stellenbosch University since 2008, although she started her career in this field of student counselling in 1996 at UFS, and she then went on to work at CPUT before moving to Stellenbosch. So this is the therapeutic support and the development of students. This area has always been her passion. And as a senior counselling psychologist at the unit for psychotherapeutic and support services, her focus is on providing students with individual and group therapeutic interventions, as well as being involved in various training and developmental activities that focus on the mental health of our students. Elmarie will kind of share with you. She has a little presentation. If you can put your questions as we go along into the chat, we're going to deal with questions at the end, if you don't mind. So Elmarie's going to talk to us for about 30 minutes or so, and sharing some understanding of what is on offer here and what you can expect, and how things might be dealt with, and what advice she might give you as parents and guardians. So I'm going to hand over to Elmarie, and then we'll speak again possibly during the Q&A. And again, thanks so much for being online. Elmarie, over to you.
Thank you very much, Karen, for that introduction. I'm just going to share my PowerPoint with you. So just tell me if you can see it just a moment. Let me just see. And then one of my colleagues said, I told my colleague, one starts to feel old when the students start calling you Tanny. And she said, no, wait until the parents call you Tanny. So I'm there now where the parents call me Tanny. So, but I'm looking forward to talking to you and sharing with you. And I hope my years of experience can benefit you. Yeah, so very welcome to this talk, and I hope it will be of benefit. Okay, so I just want to quickly just give a little bit of an overview. My focus will be more on kind of the role parents can play in students' lives and how can you support them. And I know you've done a previous session where maybe the more administrative staff could answer some of those questions that you had. But in my first slide, I'm just going to touch just quickly on faculties. So we lie outside of the faculties. We're an independent center. So we deal with all the faculties and departments, but it means that I don't always have the insight into how all of them function. But I think it's important to remember that faculties and departments, and even modules within those departments, have their own individual requirements and environments. So in general, students are expected to function independently, to take responsibility and to have agency and commit to also do their part. But when they struggle, of course, they can reach out for help and they can make use of the various resources available. But we normally communication channels of their modules as well as the processes involved in making appointments, for example, with lecturers. I found that it's really quite an open space and faculty normally welcome students when they do reach out. And they shouldn't feel too intimidated, but I know sometimes it can be difficult for them. And sometimes it is also important for them to remember there's a lot of support staff within the faculties, within the departments, but then also outside. For example, our Center for Student Counselling and Development. And each faculty also has a person dedicated to student support. They have different names. In some, they call student affairs. In some, they call student support. In theology, it's the dean's PA, so different role descriptions and different functions. But all of these staff are focused on supporting staff, supporting students, connect with staff and with resources. Then the registrar's office obviously also have administrative assistance with regards to information about modules and registration, etc. And I think these people already spoke to you earlier in the year. But then also to note that students who are in extended programs, degree programs, where they take their first year over 2 years, they also have dedicated mentors. And at student counselling, for example, they have a dedicated psychologist and counsellor who are situated within our centre, but are they focused on their needs. So if I go to the next slide, so life as a student. So I mentioned a few things there like academic, social, family, etc. You can look at the slide there. But these are aspects that can be seen as supportive, but also sometimes as stressors and as challenges for students. And for every student, that experience will, of course, be different. But some of these challenges can be managed within a student's own support structures. But there are times when students really feel they need additional help or skills to really cope. Sometimes if these challenges are not addressed timeously, it can also lead to academic failure or even mental health issues. So it is important to note that students increasingly arrive on campus. We see that they have either a previous diagnosis of a mental health issue, or sometimes that they develop one, or that they have something that's not been identified before but could have been there for quite a while already. So these are some of the issues, like I said, that is normal things that happen to all of us. Sometimes abnormal things like trauma, but all of these things are things that students have to navigate around. So how do they navigate the first year? If you look there, I put a slide on there to show you a little bit from the psychological background that I come from, Erikson's psychosocial theory. So when we deal with students, we need to also remember where are they at in the different developmental stages. And how do we take that into account? Because it also impacts on their journey and how they manage that. So they are in the process of finding their feet in the adult world. Obviously, we also have a lot of mature students, so I'm not disregarding that, but the majority of our students are finding their feet there, and that means becoming independent and exploring the identities, establishing new relationships, and forming and internalizing their own values. So they might need to learn how to form and maintain relationships on various levels as well. So at times it could feel for families like they are losing their children or like these students are in conflict with what the family believes in. But I think it's important to remember this is a very important part of growing up and becoming your own person. So what do students need to adjust to? What is happening in the first year? So we often see a lot of students who really struggle with transitions and adjustments. So for some students, it's just fun and they're very excited, but university can also be very overwhelming in a number of ways. So it's big, can be experienced as impersonal. Academic work can sometimes be very difficult. There's also a lot of diversity and a lot of new things to learn. The academic work increases as well as from matric, obviously, to first year and as you go on from there. But it's also not just more, but it also becomes obviously more complex. So many students have to adjust on the academic front with the expectations from the faculty, who also expect from them to work more independently. And like I said, also the amount of work that they need to manage. So it means that some students don't yet have the skills to really deal with this amount of work or the complexity of it. Yeah, so they are sometimes also expected to work in groups, and for some students that is also can be challenging in various ways. So in addition, at school your work was really quite structured. It was directed by a teacher, and sometimes your parents helped. So there were people around you that kind of fulfilled the executive functioning for you. At university, the student must now manage by themselves. In some cases, they do not have someone looking over their shoulder anymore to see if they are working or in bed at a reasonable hour, no one to do their shopping or make everyday decisions, no one to do their laundry or cook for them. So this can be really very freeing, but it can also lead to them not knowing how to use the freedom or not to have the time or financial management skills to actually balance all these tasks that they now suddenly have to perform for themselves. And I know we normally do teach our children when they go to high school to be more independent, but I think really at university that's where they really realize, okay, now I'm on my own and I have to manage these things. For many of our students, finances is also a major stressor. So if they do not have the financial means to survive at university, it can be very daunting. One's place of accommodation, for example, that needs to provide a sense of security and enable you to focus on your studies. So for students in private rents, sometimes or in private spaces, it can sometimes be very difficult if they don't feel safe or they live off campus and they have to travel in either from home or some private space. And in that case, transport can either be sometimes not feel safe, but it can also be very costly. And to survive at university, you also need to have a proper diet. You need sustenance. That forms the building blocks of your mental health, together with exercise and with sleep. So at university, finances come into play in terms of survival, but obviously also with regards to the people around you in terms of socializing. So students can often feel very excluded from activities and opportunities when they cannot afford it. And we know there's been a lot of challenges around NSAS. Yeah, that has really, I think at all levels of university has really been difficult for students to deal with, and has really placed a lot of financial burden on students. But in addition to the finances, obviously, there are also other reasons, various other reasons why students can find it hard to integrate socially. But not adjusting socially can also lead to isolation and even social anxiety in some cases, or in other cases, there can be too much partying or struggling to say no or just plain giving into FOMO. So the CCD offers, so that's the Center for Student Counselling and Development. So we offer workshops for students with regards to time management, study skills, preparation for exams and stress management, so that we can upgrade these skills that they come with from school. And for some students who struggle with life stresses or relationships, or sometimes even more debilitating issues like depression, anxiety, or other mental health issues, we also offer individual and group therapy. So when we look at healthy lifestyle, so when students think around university, one thinks more around academics, and parents often focus on academics and hard work. But it's also important to remember that research informs us that a well-balanced life is equally important to performance and succeeding in life. But when students feel overwhelmed or experience challenges in any of these fields of development or healthy, holistic well-being, then it is very important to encourage them to reach out for help. So who do they reach out for? What are those resources? So there are many informal platforms for students that is available. And that is why networking with peers are so important for students, because that is where they get to know about these informal platforms and accessing them. So we've got a formal academic platform called Sun Learn or Sun Success. But we also have students can also access the lecturers via email, for example, via the secretary of the faculty, to reach out for help. I know the library, for example, also offer a lot of training for students as to how to use their resources. There's a lot of websites and various Facebook and Instagram accounts per department, per faculty, per service that also provide information on the support available. And then there's a lot of societies that students can join. And these activities are often either facilitated just within students themselves, but sometimes they also happen within a faculty, within a department. And those are the platforms where students can liaise, where they learn and develop and where they grow, but where they also can connect with people around them. I'll go to the next slide. Just a little bit further with regards to support available. So there's also a lot of formal support in addition to these informal support platforms. For example, we've got the Center for Student Counselling and Development, and we've got the various units there. We've got 4 units that focus on academic wellness, one that focuses on psychological and emotional wellness. We have, together with that therapeutic service, we also have a crisis service, a 24-hour crisis service. We have a unit for graduate and career services that helps to link students to the world of work. And we also have a disability unit that helps students who have specific needs around accessing academic help or academic learning. So that's our service. Within our service, we also have a social worker that provides students with regards to food security, for example, and various welfare issues. But since I'm at the CSCD, I think it's also important to remember, I also just want to highlight some of the other aspects or other services. For example, the language center that includes a writing center where students can go for help when they have to write essays, for example, or thesis or things like that. The equality unit provides support where students have been unfairly treated or harassed, or where they feel unsafe. The Campus Health, they are a private clinic that charges medical aid fees, but they are on campus, and we often work very closely with them. DSAF, which is our Division for Student Affairs, they provide work within the student living and learning environments. And then, of course, academic faculties, like I said, all have their lecturers, their support staff, their class reps, etc. To support students, then a lot of other departments within the university, like bursaries and loans, etc. So all these various support systems are introduced to students during welcoming period, and students are made aware of it and the internal rules and procedures, but they don't always remember it when they really need it. But just to direct them again and to remind them that it is there. They just maybe need to go look on our website or on an Instagram page or ask someone within their faculty if they don't know. So intentionally integrating into their living space and connecting with peers, again, play a very big role in helping students to make the best of their university experience. So if I look at the CSCD, like I said before, we've got the 4 units. We offer free and confidential counselling, therapy and guidance on various aspects of wellness. The nature of our work and the board where we are registered, the psychological board, the board for psychology, prescribe that we are not allowed legally to disclose any information about our clients without their informed consent, unless they are a threat to themselves or others. And I think it's important to remember that as parents as well. So parents will often ask us, is my child seeing you, or can you please reach out and let me know how they're doing? But we are not allowed to do that because your children, your students are seen, our adults, they're 18 mostly, unless they're 17, but mostly 18. And as adults, it's very important that we respect the right to privacy and confidentiality, even towards parents. That's sometimes hard for parents to understand, but it's a legal requirement that we need to meet. And it's also important for us because it helps us to have a transparent and trusting relationship with the students that we work with. So part of our services is also our 24-hour service. So this crisis service. So we've got, in collaboration with ER24, we provide this 24-hour crisis service. So those are for emergencies that are especially of a psychological nature, trauma, suicide, threats or ideation or feelings. If someone feels that they are going to harm themselves, if they are going through a really difficult time and completely overwhelmed and not able to take care of themselves in that moment, that is when ER24 after hours will provide a service through their trauma counsellors. Students just need to phone our call centre. They have the number available, but it's also there on the screen. Make a note and make sure your child has saved it on their cell phone. So that's our after-hour service, and we continue that service during the day. So every day we have a staff member on crisis service for students who walk in crisis and needs the immediate attention for psychological crises. Because we don't offer a free of charge medical service, just note that if there's a medical service required, ER24 also has an ambulance service, but if a student is transported from where they are to a hospital, and the hospital service from there will be billed. It will be billed to the student, and they are liable for that payment. And that's because the counselling service we offer at university is free of charge, but not the medical service. So students just need to understand that. It's not a toll-free number, but they just need to find the call centre to give information about who they are, that they are a student from Stellenbosch University, and where they can be found, and their telephone number, very important. And then from there, a counsellor will make contact with them and either arrange a telephonic session or see them in person on campus if it's needed. So they'll make the assessment, and during the day, we'll follow up the next working day. We'll make sure that the person or the student is contained, and if they need further therapy, then we'll see to that. So these are contact details. So students mainly can email us at support us, for example, and then just request an appointment. There's a form they need to fill in according to the POPI Act and our board. We do require that they sign a consent form, and from there they will be allocated for sessions, whether it's for counselling, academic therapy, or whatever their need might be. But there's also, each of our units have a different email address, so where they can also direct their questions. But our general one, support us, is the easiest one for them just to remember. So let me just get to you as parents as well. So I was also asked just to talk a little bit about parenting and parenting the students. I think it is important to remember to be careful of being the helicopter or the lawnmower parent who want to hover over their child, or in the case of a lawnmower parent, remove all the obstacles in their way. They need to learn, they need to grow, and they need to believe and trust in their own ability to handle things and cope. So be supportive and express care, but do so in an unconditional and respectful way, respecting their privacy and their responsibility to make their own decisions. It might not always coincide with the decisions you would have made for them, but that is also how we allow them to be adults. So unconditional does not mean that we have to approve of all the behaviors and the ideas, but to give them the space and the safety to talk about differences and to talk about consequences, but for them to know that you will love them anyway. So we do see that students do not necessarily stop those behaviors and ideas or attitudes that parents often disapprove of. They just get better at hiding them. So if students do find that they're not going to be safe, then they're not going to share. And it means that there's a part of their life they're not going to share with you. To some extent, so it is also important that there are limits, obviously, and as long as things don't harm them. But we need to be careful, because our definition of harm might not be, a reasonable definition of harm. So we might be overprotective and see as everything as harmful. So we also need to sometimes reflect and think, what is this me, or is this subjectively or objectively harmful? So we need to give them that space to grow. But when you are concerned as a parent about harmful behavior, it is advisable to talk to them in a way that is not about punishment and being rejected, but rather about realistic consequences and finding a solution and resources. The other extreme that I see is what our students, or the students that I see, term Facebook parents. And those are the parents that they experience as, my parents brag about me to friends and family, but when it gets down to it, they're not really there for me, either emotionally, financially, or otherwise. And that can also make a student feel extremely lonely and isolated. So what advice do I have for you? Also, listen to your child. Have a conversation with him or her, but allow them to do. Trust their skills, their development, and their abilities. Your support can be like a safety net or a trampoline. So in the case of a trapeze artist, when they lose their balance or something goes wrong up there, there's something to catch them. We realize that in some cases more action might be needed. And then we have to look individually what those cases are. But take into account with your actions when you do intervene, whether they still allow your child to grow and to adult, or whether it just disempowers them. So it's important to encourage your child to be inquisitive and to engage with other students. It is important also to encourage them to attend the faculty and other events, as well as get involved with their clusters, their residences, or their commuter societies or groups. Allow your child to do things for themselves as far as possible and to believe in their own resources and abilities. Make suggestions and inquire whether they followed up. And only step in when they are really not able to do so themselves. Okay. Yeah, so I hope there's enough time for questions and answers. If there's anything that you want me to clarify or expand on.
Thanks a ton, Elmarie. That's fantastic. And there are lots of questions in the chat. I think that
also going to have a quick look.
Have a look.
The Q&A.
There's quite a lot on the recording. Yes, definitely the recording will be shared. So if a student is having difficulty adjusting to rowdy, non-sleeping digs mates when they're trying to sleep work and their dig mates aren't, what would you advise?
I think it is again important, at a job one day, an adult will also have to negotiate with fellow employees, how to deal with things. So it's important for them to learn good communication skills, to learn that they can be assertive, but how's that different from being passive aggressive or just passive or just aggressive? So we do offer a lot of, for example, a workshop on building relationships group, where students often learn how to communicate with each other and how to express their feelings. We have workshops on self-assertiveness if there's a need. But yeah, I think it is important for them to communicate with other people with respect. And to learn how to do that with other words in a respectful way, but also to remember they also deserve respect. So sometimes we want to save our child. We want to go and talk to those dig mates and, scold them and tell them to behave. But that is also not empowering your child. So your child also needs to learn, how do I negotiate and how do I work through this? We have a very high rise in students presenting with autism spectrum disorder. And that's often students that are very sensitive and especially auditory, but also can be smells and tastes. There's a society for students with autism spectrum on campus as well, because we have seen such a rise. We have a support group, and those students particularly sometimes struggle a bit with the communication. And if they really struggle, then I would advise that they come and see us for individual sessions or for groups or for skills and support groups to make sure that we can skill them, but also to provide a space where we can help them explore what those issues are. But it is so important to learn how to express yourself and how to be assertive in a respectful way. And especially when it's private, you don't always have a res head or a HC to go to and complain. And then you need to learn how to deal with those things in a constructive way.
Also in the residences, there's sort of noise rules. And that's what the house agrees is what time, no noise after 9 or after 10 or after 11, whatever the kind of thing is. And sometimes it's handy if the digs mates are able to sit down and agree what their rules are going to be kind of between each other around trying to work, particularly around this crucial time of exams.
Yeah, agreed. I would normally suggest to students that at the beginning, when you move in together, have a ground rule meeting where you sit together and you all agree, because sometimes people have different needs. So you might have to also compromise a bit, or even just in a flat, with one flatmate or a house with digs mates, to have regular meetings, if it's weekly or monthly. But also then you need to use specific communication styles where you use what we call iMessages, where you say, I think this is what I want. And this is how your behavior affects me, rather than saying you're a pig, you're leaving the bathroom like a pigsty. So we also try and teach students what are those ways of communication. But it's good to have regular meetings and to agree as students within that base of accommodation that we'll meet and talk and be upfront with what we need, but that we are respectful. And how do we do that? That's very important, I think, to have those rules. It could be flexible rules, but it's important that there's communication from the start about it. Then there's a question on how the mentor system works.
Yes.
And how students access a mentor. So if your student is within a residence, then there are mentors that are appointed for each student, and they are psychosocial mentors. But they also have within the residence often academic mentors. So they will place a student with a student in res that is a senior and in the same course. They also do that within the bigger clusters. So the different reses form a cluster. And within the cluster, there's also cluster mentors. So even the students in a private ward have access to mentors. But within the faculties, there's also mentor systems. For example, the extended program has very formal mentor systems. But it depends on the subject and the faculty, how the mentoring system works. It's very individual. There's no formal systemized or systemic mentor system on the academic side that I'm aware of. We used to have them, but then there was restructuring. So now it happens within the faculty. So it's not always that there's an academic mentor available, but if your student needs to access one, the best is to go to the faculty support person. In science, it's Artika Valentine. In agri-science, it's Natasha Brown. Theology, it's Marika Brandt. In law, it is Bradley Greenhalgh. Where am I now? In engineering, Natalie White will put them into contact. Within the engineering, each department also has a faculty or a departmental support person for students. So each faculty BA, it's normally the vice dean, I think Pastor Ruud. So there's different in each faculty. In education as well, there's different people that students can access to ask, how do I get a mentor within an academic sphere? Like I said, within the community for student living and learning, there's formal structures. And if they don't know who the mentor is, they can contact anyone within their cluster to find out. Because every mentee, every student is a mentee that's connected to a mentor. And then are there student leaders at res who can identify when a student is struggling and refer them to the facility? We do use the mentors. That's what the mentors are there for, but also the residence heads are very good at doing that. If the student goes to them or they are made aware by a HRCOLIT or HC member or a mentor. But again, it depends on the student whether they want to follow up and make use of the suggested service. So we can't force them, and the mentor also can't force them. But we train the mentors, we train the HOCAs, HCs, the prims, the vice prims to know how to refer and how to manage crises as far as we can. Yeah, so the detail of the support services, I don't know. I don't have it now on me, but there is every faculty. If you go onto the website, I don't know whether we can provide you with that afterwards. But if you go onto the website under staff, you will see the support staff listed there, and the student, your child needs to know. They need to inform themselves. It's easy to find out. They can just go to the faculty secretary of the dean, for example, and they will be given the information. It's your child that needs to find that out. Not, it's their responsibility. Ask them if they know it. If they don't, give them homework to go and find out. Can you please help on how are you dealing with issues? Sorry, yeah, Karen, I don't want to.
No, I see that there's a NSFAS question which we won't be able
Yes,
to
I just see it.
reply to, but there is someone called Cully Sauls in the bursaries and loans, undergraduate bursaries and loans office, who is the NSFAS, leads the NSFAS contact team. And so your child needs to make an appointment to see him. I'm afraid I really can't comment, Mrs. Malape, about that. So it's Cully Sauls who your son, I think it's your son, needs to make an appointment to go and see, and yeah, kind of have a good adult conversation around that with the department.
We are really, the way that NSFAS works at the universities have changed as well. Before the universities managed those funds, and it went back to NSFAS, and they changed administrators. It is complicated.
I see that Peter Kloppers has provided a very big answer there on the mentor system and how that works in the chat. Peter is a director in our student affairs division and in charge of the student communities. Yeah, so that's a good, reliable response in the work of the mentors.
And then it says here there are reports about girls being harassed. remember, Stellenbosch is not a bubble. It's not, we are like the rest of South Africa. We have our issues. And it's also difficult because we are part of the town. So we have campus, and student or campus security does patrol campus. And we have greenways that they do patrol. If a student is harassed, they can report it to campus security. Campus security really tries their best, but remember, they're not the police. They don't have arresting capabilities. They try and secure campus as much as possible, but it's hard because we have an open campus. So in some ways it's wonderful. And in some ways it is also problematic because we don't have a fence that we can close. Yeah, so, but they can report it to campus security, and especially when there's campus security also tries to see where the trends are and tries to address it, but they can't without the police and really enforce certain things. So we can as far as possible, but yeah, it is we deal with it as far as we can. But we are, again, you know, remember, we are South Africa, and we are not a bubble, and our campus is open. Yeah, so that brings its own challenges.
So it's
Then the
really
need to have a
crucial that the
balanced-
girls
yeah.
save that campus security
report it.
number on their phones.
Yes,
Yeah.
2333. They've got a WhatsApp line as well. If students feel unsafe, they WhatsApp that line. And I'm not sure whether it's that number specifically, but campus security is 808-2333. And there's a WhatsApp line where they can ask security to accompany them if it's on campus. They will accompany them. So that's also important for them to know. Did you ask about a balanced student life and first years, especially within the BSc faculty? The academic requirements are so limited. So students need to participate, find it hard to participate in other activities, how it's managed and reflected. Yeah, we are also advocates of asking the university to allow, for example, for a lunch hour, where students can participate in things. Yeah, it is. BSc is very full. They have full classes. They've got tutorials in the afternoons, you know. So yes, it is full, but even with a full program, students will find some way to do something. They must just be intentional around what they do, not just sit in front of the computer and watch YouTube videos, go down that rabbit hole, for example. You know, there's a lot of things that you can intentionally do and participate. It is a balancing act. And if they struggle with that, like I said, we do have workshops on time management. We see them individually where it's necessary. But it is really hard. University is not a picnic. It is hard. It's hard work. It's stressful because you don't finish your work. Like, I go to the office, then sometimes I have something after hours, but I can go home. Peter Klopper doesn't go home, I don't think. He's on 24 hours. But most of us, you know, we finish our work, but students, you always have in the back of your mind, there's a test to prepare, there's an assignment, so it is challenging, but at the same time, it is possible. If you just look at all the students that do participate in everything, and they're from BSc, medical, law, all the faculties, we have students who are really active on campus in different things. Yeah. So access to lecturers are restricted. Not a lot of them are approachable. Yes, I can't. It is very difficult. I say to students, you know, you're a client and you have a right to approach a lecturer. You're a paying client of the university. But it is true that not everyone is as approachable. Sometimes it is just because students think they are not approachable and haven't even tried. Sometimes there are lecturers who are not really, you know, not everyone's a lecturer because they want to work with people. They are a lecturer maybe because they're just great at what they do in their subject field, and maybe they don't feel as comfortable. But that's why faculty support person is a very important person. I don't know if it's my signal or yours, but yeah, I hope people can still hear me. Might seem okay on my side. Yeah, can I continue? I don't know. Where do you want to give me okay, you can hear me. Yeah, so yes, coming from grade 12 in school, it is a huge adjustment to not have your parents or your teachers being approachable. University is a big place. One can feel like a number, but in most cases that I experience, lecturers are approachable and they are willing to help students if they feel that they're also bringing their side. So yeah, students must be encouraged to at least try. If the lecturer is not approachable, then the faculty support staff, but the head of the department, the chair of the department, someone somewhere will be able to respond. But lecturers obviously also restricted time. So they will have certain procedures, you know, rather email me, see me after class, make an appointment. So it's often not, you're not always able to just walk in. So you normally do have to make an appointment or send an email. And if they don't come back, then it is important to just follow up, you know. Yeah, I see there Peter wrote another nice email. And then issues with access, again, it will depend on the lecturers, and yeah, it can be difficult, but if it's really a problem, go to the support person in the faculty and ask them to liaise. Then exams and tests that can be quite late, starting at 5:30. Again, campus security. Please contact that service where they accompany the students to make sure that they are there. Again, this is a faculty issue. Sorry, I can't help with that. I'm not the one who puts together the schedules, but we have to fit everything into a day. Yeah. But again, so campus security cannot really go into, you know, the different private areas, but they do try and support as far as they can, and they do accompany students if they feel unsafe. Yeah, so again, if your student is an engineering student, then Natalie White is the support person within the faculty as a whole, but every engineering, mechanical, civil, chemical, process, electrical, electronic, all of them, mechatronic, all of them have industrial, they all have a specific person that is there that helps students and support them. So it is important to reach out, and if they don't know who to, Natalie S at sun.ac.za is Natalie White, and she can also refer them to the two educational psychologists. So engineering faculty pays as on contract to educational psychologists that are just there for engineering students. So Natalie White is also the person to make an appointment for them to contact for an appointment with either it's Ines Saunders or Annette Duplessis, or two educational psychologists just very dedicated to engineering. Is there a society for ADD students? So actually, I'm not aware of one. Our support group is neurodiverse, so it will include ADD students. We have a lot, for example, we've got 2 OT students every term that do practical with us. They support a lot of ADD, ADHD students with skills. So yeah, if students want a support group, they're also welcome to start one. They can also connect with us to assist with that. ADHD is quite a big problem on campus. Yeah, it is a real issue. I just want to see, Peter is also answering some of the things around the things we do in terms of our initiative to make campus safer. Who pays the bill for ER24? If your child uses ER24 for trauma counselling, if they phone to see a counsellor, there's no bill. If an ambulance is called for a medical emergency, then you or your child will get the bill. If a person does not have a medical aid, ER24 will bill them the metro rate that the metro is. They normally try and do that if possible. But so the child or the parent will have to foot the bill because we don't offer a free medical service. Yes. If someone is in crisis, they were psychotic, for example, there was no decision that could be made, then often we try and assist as far as we can, but we also don't have funds to fund that. We just fund the counsellor that is available 24/7, either during office hours at our office or after hours, they will come out. But the ambulance, unfortunately, we don't cover that for any medical problems. Campus Health has got a cell phone that people can use. The doctors carry it, but it's not, they don't come out. They just give advice on the phone. So
Elmarie,
they have a number.
Elmarie?
Yes, Corin. Yes, you're breaking up a little bit. Yes. Just want to see, are you still hearing me? Is it me that's breaking up?
Where you're breaking?
Okay, so I've got a little hand that people can hear me. I hope it's okay.
If you pop off your camera for a moment, it'll help on the signal.
Okay, so someone asked, my son is doing his first year, recently lost his father during the exam period. So yeah, support us at sun.ac.za. It's a private, they can email us privately to just access that support. If it's a crisis and they need immediately support, they also can email support us at sun.ac.za and just indicate it's a crisis, or the after hours crisis line as well. It will be discreet as well. Yeah. Yeah, so the workshops is on our website, so students can go to the university websites. I think it's a /CCD to find information on our workshops. We also do Instagram, so they can have a look at our Instagram account as well. The mentors, again, they don't fall under us, they fall under residences, but we do try and train them as far as possible to be available and accessible and supportive. Getting back test results, again, it's a faculty issue that I can't comment on, as well as when tests are written, and security as well. We do try, we give feedback, we meet monthly with campus security, we do discuss issues that come through ER24, and they are very open for our feedback as well. So we do report where we can. Want to see, would like to know whether accounts due are communicated directly with parents or guardians. I'm not sure who gets the accounts. If it's ER24, it depends on what the name is under who the service was provided. If it's the ambulance, it might be sent to the student directly or to the parent. But if it's a student account, that will depend on what the student puts on the form when they register at the university. ER24, since our counseling is free of charge, you don't need a medical aid card for that, but for the medical emergencies, yes, medical aids are accepted. Yes, they do work with medical aids. Yes, there is a list of good therapists in and around campus. If you're looking for private ones, there's a huge number of private practitioners. You can email me. So if you want any of this information, I think it might be best to email me directly at elmarievdw@sun.ac.za. So it's Elmarie, ELMARIEVDW@sun.ac.za. So we have a list like that. Not a very comprehensive list because people are, they add and they leave, and it's not always as accurate, but we do try and provide a list of private practitioners. So if a student missed out on the first kind of the introduction, they must just please contact their mentor or someone in res if they are in residence, or go to their faculty. Or come to us, email support us at sun.ac.za, and we can also provide them with information on what they feel they need. It's hard when you start late, and there are often reasons why. Hey, that's beyond your control. There are systems in place where students can be walked to residence. Payment, again, it's a financial issue. Sorry, I can't comment on that. Is a very good or kind of some compliment for campus security. That's been very useful. Again, thank you, Alvin, for putting the numbers there, and the WhatsApp number, walk in a group number. Please have a look at that. So campus security, just seeing if there's any more. The WhatsApp number again. So medical aid, campus health does accept medical aid. To see if there's anything else that I need to answer.
I think that's it in the main. I think you've done a great job in filtering through, and our colleagues Peter and Yacolette and Alwyn are trying to answer in the chat as well. So I think that that you've done a great job yet again, Elmarie. Thank you very much. We lean on you to provide information and support. And I want to thank you so much for making time this evening to do so. And we're going to hand over to Alwyn. Thanks, Elmarie.
Thank you very much for your time and giving me the opportunity.
Mr. Mabuza.
All right. Thank you very much, Karen, for that opportunity. And thank you so much for all the wonderful information, Elmarie. Very informative. Thank you so much for that. My role is to just say thank you for everyone who participated in our virtual talk tonight, our Matie Valued Parent Talk, especially to Elmarie and for my colleague Viwe who organized this parent talk. I think it's our second or third one now, and we're looking forward to some more. And then further on, I'd just like to welcome all our parents that as we come to the end of tonight's virtual gathering, I want to invite you and extend an invitation to all of you parents to join our Matie's Valued Parents Network. So this is an opportunity where parents can network with one another beyond these virtual talks. Obviously, now we are behind our screens and our Microsoft Teams, but we also want to create an opportunity for our parents to meet one another and talk to one another in fun, engaging events and see how we can foster a good, supportive environment for our students. We like to believe that by working together, we can really enhance the overall experience of our Maties. So we will be having a Matie's Valued Parents Committee, but as well as the broader network that could potentially have events in different provinces and come to Stellenbosch once in a year, apart from the normal welcoming and the graduation ceremonies. To do this, we are using Matie's Connect, and I'll be posting the link now in the chat. But it's very, very simple to join. All you do is you follow that website, you sign up, and once you sign up there, you just click the parents button, and that will immediately automatically put you into the parent group. And then that's where we'll be communicating all the information about where can you sign up, where are events happening, when can we come together. So I will be sharing that in the chat. It's called Matie's Connect. It's our platform that we created for our parents, for our alumni, supporters of the university to come together. And that's where we'll share a lot of information and coordinate with you in how to get involved as parents. So that's basically it from my side. I really want to thank you for your time. Thank you for your consideration and look forward to welcoming you on board the Matie Valued Parents Network as well as the Matie Valued Parents Committee. That's it from my side. I'll hand over again to my colleague Viwe, and we will wrap it up for the evening. Thank you so much.
Hello, everyone, and thank you so much, Alvin, for the vote of thanks, as well as to our esteemed guest speaker, Elmarie, for your insightful conversation, as well as just presentation on how parents can support their kids. I think, and also thank you to our senior director for welcoming us into this space. As Alvin mentioned, we are going to be posting the Matie Valued Parent Connection networking group on our chat, but please make sure that you join us for our next installment of the virtual talk on Matie Valued Parent, which will be on financial aid, which is happening in September. Please make sure that you join that, which will be also be sharing more information on how we can support you as the Stellenbosch University staff. So thank you once again and have a good evening to everyone. Thank you. Bye.